So please take a look at these equations. Okay. We have defined these non-dimensional variables. So these are given to us in some sense. And now if I look at my equation A, okay, this quantity is non-dimensional. Theta star is non-dimensional, T star is non-dimensional. They have no units. Likewise, this derivative over here is non-dimensional. So this is also a non-dimensional quantity. Likewise, this heat source is also non-dimensional. Okay. Similarly, when we talk about the boundary conditions, okay, these are again, you will see, non-dimensional quantities. As you can see, del theta star by del x star is non-dimensional, and of course theta star itself is non-dimensional. So this also is non-dimensional. So the numbers that I get is, the first one I will call it as the Biot number, which is actually this quantity over here, HL by K. Okay. So I can write this as 1 over K divided by 1 over HL. Okay, this is just for helping me to interpret. Okay. Now, as you know, I could think of temperature as some kind of a potential, and then I could talk about what is the resistance to that temperature gradient being equalized. So I could think of this 1 by K as conductive resistance, the ratio of conductive resistance to actually the convective resistance. So just like we talked of things like Reynolds number, Froude number in the case of fluid mechanics. So this is your first non-dimensional number as far as heat transfer is concerned. So we are calling it the Biot number. Okay. So obviously Biot number means that what is the ratio of your conductive resistance to convective resistance. So let's look at two limiting cases, when the Biot number is very small and the other case where Biot number is very large. So let me draw some pictures for you. So here is a case where Biot number is going to be extremely small, so it's much less than 1. So this is your slab, and then I am also going to draw a case where the Biot number is much larger than 1. So what do the temperature profiles look like? Okay, the first case, when the Biot number is much smaller than 1, that means that the conductive resistance is extremely small, okay, compared to the convective resistance. So conductive resistance is negligible, of course, compared to the convective resistance. So if I had to draw a temperature profile, because my conduction is relatively high, so I would get almost a uniform temperature inside my slab. So my profile may look something like this. So if this is a horizontal line, perhaps the temperature profile may look like this inside the slab, almost uniform. And then of course I would have a variation outside. This of course is Tf. Okay. So this is at every time instant. Okay. So my conduction is so high that actually the temperature is almost uniform throughout the slab. With time, of course, this would drop down to the fluid temperature eventually. What happens if my Biot number is very large? That means my convective resistance is negligible. In other words, my fluid is extremely well stirred, so it has very high convective heat transfer coefficient, H is very large. Okay. So you can see from this formula also, so H is very large compared to K. And then of course I would have, as if the fluid temperature directly drops to Tf right at the surface of the slab. So if I had to draw the profiles, then I would see something like this. So I would see a significant variation inside the slab, because now I have reasonable resistance to conduction, but then I have almost the fluid temperature drops to Tf as soon as I come outside the slab. Okay, so these are the two limiting cases of the bio number being extremely small and the bio number being extremely large. Notice the bio number also would make sense if I had a steady state heat conduction. Okay, then also I can still talk about the bio number. Okay, next, the next number that I want to talk about is FO, which is the Fourier number. And that's defined as alpha tau. So that's the Fourier number over here, alpha tau divided by L square. So it's a non-dimensional number which is based on the diffusivity, the characteristic time, and then the square of the characteristic length. And if you think of, so one physical interpretation of this number is that if tau is equal to t, so if you think of the characteristic time as the present time t, then your Fourier number is actually alpha t by L square. And I could use this itself as a non-dimensional number or a non-dimensional time. So this corresponds to non-dimensional time. And in fact, now you can ask yourself, what is the characteristic time for this problem? Because this FO is, or the Fourier number is non-dimensional, so t has the units of time. So the non-dimensional time, therefore, sorry, the characteristic time would be L square by alpha. Okay. So, so it is in some sense the extent or the time needed for the temperature to diffuse inside the slab. Okay. So it's based on essentially the conductivity, the density, and the specific heat capacity. Okay. All right. So we've seen two numbers here, the bio number and the Fourier number. And now what we can do is, looking at all these equations over here, I can now represent that my theta star depends on certain non-dimensional numbers. So let me write that relationship for you and then take it forward. So I can now write my functional relationship as that my theta star is actually a function of my x star, which is the location. So this I am talking about the temperature field inside the slab. Okay. Please be aware that we have not written the equations for the fluid. We are only talking about the temperature conduction inside the slab. We have modeled the convection by simply the heat transfer coefficient H, which has to be given to us. So this I would call it as T star, the temperature, which actually is, we have talked about the Fourier number now, and then the bio number, and then of course the non-dimensional heat source, which is given as rho c T minus Tf. Okay. So this statement tells us that if I want to find out the temperature distribution inside the slab, I must know where I am located. So x star is very important because it changes from one point to the other. It's a transient phenomena, so it changes with time. And then there are these two other important variables, the bio number and the heat source. Suppose I take a special case where there is no heat source. So suppose STH is 0, no heat source. Then I am able to write that my theta star is simply a function of x star, my Fourier number and my bio number. Okay? And of course I can solve those equations which I have written. That's one way of doing it. But what people have done is they have presented charts, and you can actually estimate. So we can read off theta star from certain charts, and these are known as Heisler charts. So they are available for various kinds of geometries, and I am going to sketch an example for you. Okay? So these are charts which look something like this. On the y-axis you have theta star, okay, and theta star of course is in the log scale. So let me plot this as 0.001, and this would be 0.01, then 0.1, and perhaps 1.0. And then here you would have the bio number, and I am going to use a very funny axis. So the first axis is a little bit expanded, then it gets relatively compressed. So let's say this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this one is something like 40, then this one is 200, and this one is 700. Okay, so you want to present the Fourier number on the x-axis, and that's actually alpha t by L square. So to be able to cover a very large Fourier number and also to look at the initial phenomena, we are using some kind of an interesting x-axis, which is linear in this, then another linear in this, another linear in this, and different linear scales, composites. Okay, so let me just sketch it for you how a typical curve would look like. So if I had a line which was straight for this linear axis, now because I have 4 parts, it would be piecewise linear. So let me draw a curve. So if I drew a curve for 1 by bio equal to 0, that curve would look something like this. Okay, so this is, I am going to plot different values of 1 by bio, and this is for a 0 value. There would be a curve for 0.2, there would be a curve for 0.5, another curve for perhaps 10, yet another curve for something like 90, and so on. So the way to read this curve would be that you figure out what is your x star location, okay, then you figure out what is your Fourier number and what is your bio number. So if you look at your Fourier number, let's say it is a value of 2, and I know my bio number, suppose my bio number corresponds to 0.2, so then I am on this line and I look at this value. So that's the value of the theta star that I would get from the Heisler charts. So you can go through your book and maybe through some reference material, and you have two options. One is to actually look at the differential equations and solve for them directly. You can use MATLAB or some other numerical technique. Sometimes you can get closed form solutions, or somebody has already done all the hard work, and using these Heisler charts you can make estimates. All right. I now want to talk to you about some very interesting engineering application of this conduction cum convection, the idea of fins. Okay. So, there are many situations in an engineering setup where we want to dissipate heat. So, we want to get rid of extra heat, and this could be in automobiles. So, you must have seen in some kind of motorcycles or maybe in cars, you have this engine block which is generating lot of heat, and you want to get rid of that heat. So, you use something called fins. I will show you what fins are. Or even in computer equipment. So in electronic equipment, so electronic components. Suppose you have a computer and in the motherboard there is a CPU which is generating lot of heat, but the area is kind of tiny. So, there is lot of dense heat that is being generated. So, we use these fins to actually dissipate heat more than what otherwise would happen. So, what are these fins? It is a very interesting idea where you attempt to increase surface area to enhance convective heat transfer. As you are aware that we can talk about a heat flux, okay, and we can talk about heat flux for conduction, we can talk about heat flux for convection, but that is a quantity which is per unit area. Clearly, if we can increase the area, then we will be able to increase the capital Q, which is small q, the heat flux times the area. So, what we can do is I will draw certain fins for you, and I think that would be self-explanatory. So, I can make some extension, and so here are a set of fins. So, these I would draw them in the third dimension to give you a flavor of what is happening. Okay, so these are my fins that are coming out of a plate. So, suppose this is a certain plate, a heated plate, which was exposed to fluid to dissipate energy. And now what I can do is I can actually come up with these extensions over here, okay, and therefore the surface area has increased and it would dissipate the heat away. So, these guys are called fins. They can be of different shapes. So, here I have shown you very simple fins which are called as uniform plate fins. But this is not the only design. You could actually have fins which could look something like this. So, here is a plate, and I could have just needle type of fins. So, I could have these pencil kind of fins which are jutting out, okay, and these are called needle fins. Okay. And of course, I can come up with more shapes. You know, there could be fins which are kind of tapered. So, I am not going to draw them for you, but you could have, for example, tapered fins. You could have conical fins, and so on and so forth. So the idea is that within the space that is available, within the resources that you have, sometimes these fins could be very expensive compared to the cost of the component. So you could design adequate finning system to dissipate energy. All that can be analyzed using the infrastructure that we have developed for heat transfer. But of course, I am not going to go into the details, but I encourage you to look them up.